Hey everybody, we will give until 1:03 to get started. We'll give everyone like one more minute to get on and we'll go from there. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So what we started doing is breaking this training down into two segments. 101, which will be the phone calls coming in, and then 102 being on the first showing. How you want to transition from a showing or a touring agreement into a BBA, buyer's broker agreement. So today I'm going to be going over section 102, which is the first meeting. I know everyone that's on this call has already been through kind of how the phone calls come in and kind of the action words as to what Zillow wants you to say and how you are supposed to go through that call. So let's go ahead and kind of dive into the showings. To give you a premise, when I first meet with someone at the first house, I want to point out everything that I can about the house, whether it be good or bad, right? So this is where your product knowledge is really going to help you. I would suggest that everyone dive into the different types of roofs, different types of electrical that you could incur in different decades of homes, as well as the plumbing, single pane windows versus double pane windows, concrete block homes compared to wood frame homes. I mean, I could go on and on, but there's monolithic slabs compared to stem walls. There's just a litany of things that I would suggest you guys really doing some research in and expanding your product knowledge, because it's just going to help you be that much more successful as agents. But I like to point out anything that I see in the house, whether it be good or bad, right? So, for instance, the other day I was showing a home in Lakeland, and I noticed that the floor was kind of sinking towards the back of the house in the living room by the fireplace. Well, that threw up a little bit of a red flag, because that's a concrete block home with a concrete slab foundation. So I went outside and started looking at the exterior of the home and noticed some very large cracks in the concrete block, as it was where the joints are. You could follow the joints and stick your finger in the hole. That's how big the crack was. So that told me automatically that there was a major settlement issue with the house. Well, then I started doing a little bit of deep diving and looking at the paperclip on the MLS, and they had posted a foundation report where there was settlement at the backside of the house, and it was going to cost $48,000 to remediate. So those are things that you really want to pay attention to when you're showing homes, because what you don't want to do is not point it out and your buyer spend a couple $1,000s on inspections and then be upset that this wasn't brought up beforehand when all the information was right there on the MLS. Does everybody know how to check, and do they know what the paperclip means on the MLS? Does everybody know that? If you don't, raise your hand. Okay, everybody's good. So sometimes agents will post the different documents, whether it be the flood disclosure, the seller property disclosure, or any pertinent information. They may post that as an attachment on MLS, and it'll show as a paperclip at the very top, kind of where you would see the showing request button and all of that. It'll be up there. So anytime I look at a house, I try to look to see if there's a paperclip up top to see if I can click on that and see if there's any information in it. Eric, are you trying to talk to us, or?
No, sorry.
Sorry, I just saw your mouth moving and nothing was, I couldn't hear nothing, so I was making sure.
Hey, I'm working and learning.
I hear you. So anyway, if the paperclip isn't there, right, and you're trying to figure out the age of the roof or something of that nature, a major defect that you see wrong with the house, then the first thing I would do is contact the listing agent and get that information and let your buyer know that you're going to reach out to them immediately to find out the age of those items. I think by now most of you already know how to check the water heater age and the AC age. If it's not on the placard on either one of them, you can take a picture in your Chat GPT, put it in there, and it will tell you those ages and who makes it and everything about it. So if you didn't know that, you can always use Chat GPT as another option to look up dates, ages, manufacturers, and all of that for water heaters and AC units. Is everybody good on that? Does anybody have any questions up to now as far as pointing things out in a showing, whether it be good or bad? Okay. So the reason why I feel it's super important to point out bad things just as well as it is good things is it builds another level of trust between me and the buyer, right? So if that buyer sees that I'm nitpicking that house and pointing out things that maybe some other agents aren't doing because those agents are only trying to get a sale, to me, it's separating me from those agents, right? Because I'm giving them the hard facts. Whether they like it or not, I'm pointing out everything about the house. Another thing I want you to really pay attention to is when you're walking through a house, always look up at the ceilings. If you're not doing that now, make it something that you start doing in the future. Every single home I walk in, I look at every single ceiling in every single room to see if there's any staining, because that is a super important item that you need to look at, especially if they have a fireplace, because normally 9 times out of 10, if they have a fireplace or a skylight, you may see where there has been some water that has come into those areas. So those are things to be cognizant of as well. As I'm touring them through the property and I'm pointing out these things, I'm also having a little small talk, right? So I kind of reference back to our phone call. So Caitlin, I know that you said you had 2 kids and you're wanting to be over in this area due to the schools. How about these bedroom sizes? Do these seem like they'd be okay for your kids? Something simple as that, right? Or you told me that you wanted a fenced-in backyard for your dog, right? You can see this yard's fenced off, or, well, this yard isn't fenced off, but you can see that you could definitely put a fence up because the neighbors have them. So you could actually potentially tie in to your neighbor's fences or whatever, right? Try to bring up the original phone call because it's going to build more value for you, and it's going to shock them that you remember that stuff, right? Every little thing like that just proves a point that you care and that you listened. Caitlin or Eric, do y'all have any things to piggyback on that, on what you do?
Yeah, I'll hop in. So being able to reference back those specific needs is really important, because when we say update your notes in Follow Up Boss, those are the things we're mentioning. That's what we mean, is anything that you pick up on, they might need the mom to move in with them down the road. So a mother-in-law suite might be a benefit. Whatever information you gather in those initial phone calls, put it in the notes. So when it's time to go back and work with them, you can easily refresh your memory. We don't expect you to remember every little detail about them off the top of, off the top of your mind. So that's how utilizing the notes and updates can really benefit you. And then throughout the process, and I talk a lot about this on our Wednesday calls too, when we're talking about meeting with the buyers, but as Matt said, you're going to be able to stand out with them if you're talking to them about the good, the bad, and the ugly. You don't want to completely run down a house, though, that they are absolutely in love with. Let them get a feel for the house. You walk through, make some mental notes of potential concerns, then gauge where they're at. And if they say, man, we really love this house, then I say, okay, great. There's a few things I'm concerned about that I want you to be aware of. There's the staining by the fireplace, or some outlets looked fried, or whatever it might be. And you can say, this shouldn't be a deal killer. We could either bring it to the seller's attention before we make the offer, or we could wait and address it during inspections, depending on the level of how big of an issue the problem might be. But that way they see that, okay, they're not only going to help me write the offer, but they're going to help me get my needs met. And you don't want to completely rain on their parade if it's a house that they're just over the moon with, pointing out, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. You want to be able to confidently inform them of, this is what I'm seeing and this is what to expect next. And then as I'm going through the showing process, as Matt said, you're making small talk. Prepare them for what to expect, as they're wrapping their head around, okay, this might be the house. If I wanted to make an offer, what is that process? What does the inspection process look like? What does the lender require? So make sure that you're educating them, and it's going to strengthen that relationship. And then they're going to realize that you're truly there to help guide them through the process, not just open houses.
Yeah. And to that point, that is where I dive into the process. I go pretty detailed into that. Again, that's just the way I do it. You can do it however you want, right? What me and Caitlin and Eric, anything we tell you on these calls is not the gospel that you have to do it this specific way, but these are the things that work for us, right? So again, I want you to tailor it to fit your verbiage and your style of how you do things so that you don't sound scripted. But the way that I do it, right, just like Caitlin, we've toured the home and I've asked them their thoughts. I'm letting them talk, telling me what they like about the house. I straight up ask them, so do you have any questions or concerns for me? Right? Because I want to know what their concerns are. If I don't know what their concerns are, then I don't know really what they may want or need from me from this house, right? And what their thought process of this house is. A lot of that can determine if they could even buy the home due to their financeability as well, right? So when I'm on the phone with them, I haven't really talked about financing. Now I'm going to start kind of deep diving and asking those questions, those pertinent questions, right? So tell me, guys, are there any questions or concerns you have about this home? Let them talk. Okay, so just to kind of give you an idea of how the process would work, if you like this home, the first thing we would need to do is get with your lender or one of my partner lenders and make sure we have a pre-approval letter so that we could submit that with an offer. Because if we don't have a pre-approval, we can't even submit an offer on the property. Have you spoken to a lender yet? What does that look like, right? I'm kind of probing. Let them talk. Let them tell me. Yes, we have. We're going VA, right? Well, if they tell me they're going VA and I just saw a crap ton of wood rot on the eaves of the house, then I'm going to go ahead and notate that and let them know. Well, just to let you know, Caitlin, that I know you're going VA. Remember the outside when we walked outside and we saw a bunch of wood rot in that fascia? Not that it's a big deal, but we would definitely want to make sure that the seller is aware that that would need to be fixed prior to the VA appraisal, because they're going to flag that on a VA report, right? So now I'm building in another level of professionalism with them and knowledge, because they're like, holy cow, this guy's already telling me things that I didn't even know, right? And the next thing I would go into is also, since you're going VA, we're going to have a WDO report that's going to have to show making sure there's no termites in this property or any type of wood destroying organisms, whether that be wood rot or anything of the sort. So that's something else we would also have to submit to the VA with the paid receipt showing that that's been paid for, right? So if you guys haven't dealt with VA, that is a step, a process in the VA lending, is you have to have a WDO report on every single home that's under contract, and you have to send them the paid invoice that your buyer paid that invoice. Now, I don't know how you guys do it in Texas or in Ohio, but in Florida, we have a crap ton of termites. So every single home, no matter how, well, I guess if it's brand new construction, we're not going to do a termite, but anything outside of brand new construction, we're doing a termite report, hands down, across the board. I don't even let my buyers have an option. Like, I don't make it an option for them. So again, kind of going back to explaining the process, when we're standing in the house, the kitchen or dining room or wherever it may be, and I'm talking to them about the first thing we need to do is make sure we have a pre-approval letter. The second thing I'm telling them is, after that, if we were to get a contract accepted, we would need to do all of our inspections. All right. So we're going to do a full home inspection as well as a termite inspection. And then if it's on a septic, we're also going to do a septic pump out and inspection as well. Okay. So if you're ever dealing with a septic tank property, that is another inspection that you want to make sure 100% you're doing. And again, the way that you explain it, you don't really give them that option, right? This is what we're going to do. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. And if anything major comes back and I call them the major fives, right? So if you guys want to write these down, actually, I'll put it in the chat box here for you. Let me see. Here we go. All right. Major fives. If there's a pool, it's major sixes.
And if you're in Texas, it's major sevens because we have foundation issues.
Okay. Right. So major fives. You're going to be roof, electrical, plumbing, AC, termites. Now, Eric, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I mean, I'll address termites. I mean, we have them. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to have them, but it's not as common as Florida. So I would just separate termite with
Foundation.
With foundation, correct?
Okay. So for the Texas group, Eric's already kind of chimed in on that. Maybe replace termites with foundation. Ohio, I don't know what that looks like. So I would assume there's probably a lot of wood frame homes in Ohio. So I would think termites would still be an issue there, but I don't really know. In Florida, it's some crazy amount of like 46 colonies per acre is what they average it out to be. So it's a very prominent thing here in Florida. Now, when I'm explaining this to the clients, this is how I reference it. Eric, I guess we'll just kind of role play here. So Eric, just kind of give you an idea. Once we were to go under contract, the next thing we would do is all of our inspections, right? So we're going to do a full home inspection, as well as a termite inspection and a septic inspection and pump out. This way, if any of those items come back, that's a major item, such as roof, electrical, plumbing, AC, or termites, we're going to push back on the seller to fix those items, because we are not going to purchase this home with a major defect and expect you to pay for that. So we are going to push back on the seller and make the seller replace or repair those items. If the seller is not willing to do so, then obviously that's your choice if you want to continue to move forward, but that could also affect your financeability of this house. So that's something that we would cross that bridge when we get to it. But normally, if it's a major defect, the seller understands that if they don't fix it, they're going to have this same problem moving forward with any other buyer, just the same.
Okay, and what are the costs for these inspections, so I know?
So typically a full home inspection is probably going to run you somewhere around $500. Okay. And then a termite is going to be just in the ballpark of $100, give or take. The septic pump out and inspection could cost another $500 to $600 as well. So I would plan on just somewhere in the ballpark of $1,000 to $1,200 total, all in, to get all your inspections done.
Okay. What if I don't want to do one of those, or I just don't really care for doing a termite inspection?
So again, as the buyer, that's your choice, right? It's always the buyer's discretion as to what inspections they do, but it's also the buyer's responsibility. So if you don't want to spend, let's say, the $100 to do the termite, you don't have to, and that's your choice. I would not recommend that. But again, if you want to choose that, we can do that. I would just need you signing a paper stating that you are waiving that inspection so that we have a documentation of it.
Okay. So it seems important that you want to sign a document if I don't want to do it, so I might want to do it.
Super important. I'll put it to you this way. If I were buying this home, I would personally do it because I think it's worth the $100 just to have the sense of mind knowing that there's no termites in my home, because the amount of damage that termites could cause in your home could be upwards of $5,000 to $10,000 if they're present.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so we're going to pause there. Does anybody have any questions how I portrayed that to Eric and his pushbacks and how I responded to that? No questions at all. Oh, Caitlin, go ahead.
Hey there. So I would just add that not only is it important to make them understand what inspections we're going to need in the future, having this conversation early on is a good way to gauge what type of houses you need to take them to look at. Because if there's someone with very, very limited cash to close, and we already know that they're going to need seller concessions, and they really are pinching pennies, we probably aren't going to look at houses that will even need a septic tank inspection. We may rule out certain homes entirely because we know it's not going to fit their specific needs. So finding out at the first, you're having all of these conversations at that first appointment, that first meeting, because you don't want to be 3 weeks in showing houses and then learning about what type of loan they need, or 3 weeks in and realizing that they don't have any money for inspections or for anything. So you're having these conversations when you first get to know them, so it helps guide them and you on how to move forward.
Absolutely. I couldn't put that any better into words. So thank you, Caitlin. If you did not listen to any part of the entire call, that is probably one of the most important things you need to know. What she's saying, guys, is so important because this is going to help you to gauge what type of buyer you're dealing with on the very first meeting, right? We're trying to gauge them as to what type of buyer they are. And we don't know that until we really start discussing these things, right? So if you spend 20 minutes with them talking about the type of financing they're going, right? Because if they're going VA and you know that VA is going to be a stickler on wood rot, and you're showing them a 1950s wood frame home with wood rot all over it, then I wouldn't show them any more homes that are the same as that one, because they're not going to be able to buy it, right? It's going to completely be a waste of your time and their time. Same with what Caitlin's saying. If you start probing and asking, and they say, well, you know, we don't have a lot of money right now, or this or that and the other. And I'm going to get into those conversations in a minute on how I kind of discuss that section. Right now, we're just kind of more into the inspection details of the conversation, but I'll get into the BBA and the type of money they may need in just a minute. But the more you can gauge on that first call and determine what type of buyer they are, it's going to help you moving forward on being more efficient and not wasting your time or their time looking at homes that they can't even purchase. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm going to backpedal a little bit. I'm going to kind of rewind some. I know I jumped into inspections because I feel it's a super important topic in the first meeting. But when I go back to talking to them about the process of putting in an offer, again, I know I've already discussed that we talk about getting a pre-approval and kind of just having a very simple question is, have you had a chance to talk with a lender yet? If they say yes, okay, great. What did that look like? Let them tell you, right? If they say, no, I haven't spoken to anyone yet, hey, no big deal. I've got a lender I can get you with right now, and they can get you pre-approved in a matter of 1 hour or less, okay? So we always look at it as a positive thing, right? It's not a negative. Hey, it's no big deal. I got a lender I can get you with right now, and they can get you pre-approved in less than an hour, right? Super simple. The more you can seem like things aren't a problem, the more it's going to relieve the buyer, because you have to look at, they don't understand this process. If you say, oh, well, if you're not pre-approved, then we need to do this, or you need to go do that. Don't have them do anything on their own. You need to guide them into what they need to do. Because if you allow them to take the reins on it, it's probably not going to get done in an orderly fashion, and it causes more stress and anxiety on them because they don't know what to expect. Okay, does everybody understand that? Okay, so again, I'm going to start. Oh, go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah. So how do you navigate when like clearly someone else has like more experience? Because I've never bought a house before. So like I don't naturally just know the process, you know? It's been kind of like a learning for me. So how do I go about like guiding them if they have like more experience in the process than I do? Because I haven't even closed on a house yet. And like the person that I'm working with right now that I have an EPPA signed with, she's like bought houses and sold houses before. So how do I like navigate those conversations?
Yep, that's a good question, right? When you're new at this, how do I even explain that process? So that's the process we're going through right now as to guiding them on how that works, right? So if I'm going to put this in the chat, right? Process. Finance / pre-approval, right? After that, what I do is talk about the offer, right? So, okay, Sarah, once, actually, we'll rewind here. We're going to role play this together, okay? You're going to be the buyer. I'm going to be the agent. You ready?
Okay.
All right, Sarah. So just want to kind of explain the process as if you want to put an offer on this property, how that would look, okay? Have you had a chance to talk to a lender yet, or have you gotten pre-approved at this point in time?
No.
Okay, no big deal at all. I've got a lender that I can get you in touch with. They can get you pre-approved in typically less than an hour. But that's the first step we would need to do in order to even place an offer on a property. Because if we don't have that, then the seller is not going to know if you're actually a qualified buyer to even move forward on the property. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so once we get that pre-approval letter, we would attach that with the offer on the home. And we would also do what's called a buyer broker agreement. Do you know what that is by any chance?
No.
Okay, so what that is it's a document stating that I'm the licensed agent that's representing you through your purchase of the home. Okay, so I'm kind of your quarterback. I'm going to be guiding you through this process. So in order to put an offer in, we would have to have that sign saying that I'm the actual licensed agent that's representing you and typing up all that paperwork. And we would have to have that pre-approval letter in hand, and we would put all of that together and send that over with the offer, right?
Okay.
Okay. Now, if your offer gets approved, then what we would do is start your inspection process. Okay. Now, when you do your inspections, we're going to do a full home inspection as well as a termite. This home is not on a septic, so you wouldn't have to worry about a septic pump out inspection, but we do definitely need to do a full home inspection and a termite inspection. Inside of that home inspection, we're also going to do what's called a wind mitt and a 4-point, and that's going to help you with getting your insurance on your property. Okay.
Okay.
Now, we're going to pause right there. Okay. Does everybody see how I kind of went in with that BBA? Eric, you got your hand up there?
Yeah, I was just going to notate that we, as for Texas, because we don't have a wind mitt or 4-point in Florida. They do our insurance inspections after you close on the property. So what that means,
So Texas is when you do your insurance after the closing?
well, your insurance is set up, but they don't do their they don't do their inspections until after the closing typically.
The 4-point and wind mitt.
Well, correct. That's when they'll do their inspections to know, again, age of life on the roof is super important. So for Texas agents, when we're talking about an inspection, hey, I'm also going to get our roofer, which we have a preferred roofer that I've had come in just the other week. He, for no charge at all, he will come out and inspect the roof for free and advise on what he thinks needs to happen with that roof. And that's just more ammo when you have the full inspection, because you can use both of those reports to know if you need to go get a roof or get anything repaired. Because we have issues with the process of insurance out here, where when the insurance company comes in after closing and they find that that roof is not insurable, you're going to be in a whole lot of crap if you didn't ask for that roof to be repaired or replaced after closing. You're going to have to do that yourself because we've already closed on the house. So it's super important for us to know the condition of that house before we sign on the dotted line.
Okay. So Texas is a little different than Florida, obviously. Again, Ohio, could be another different animal in Ohio. Every state is a little bit different on some of the things in the order that they go in, right? But most of the process is the same as to how you're going to be explaining this to your clients.
Correct. Yep.
Right. Did anybody have any questions about the buyer broker agreement and how I explained it as to the process?
And Matt, just to clarify on that, do you guys have to have that buyer broker's agreement signed and time stamped before you sign a contract? Is that important?
So typically when I explain it to them that we're going to be signing that buyer broker agreement, I'm letting them know that that's going to be part of the offer, because I'm the licensed agent that is representing them in the process. So it's one of those things that I would send it with the offer. So they're actually signing it simultaneously with the offer.
Okay. Well, Texas, I would say, needs to be done before the contract because they are looking at timestamps now. So that buyer brokerage agreement can't be done after they sign a contract. So I would just put that in place. I know Trek, our body out here, is looking at that, as well as our brokerage for compliance is looking for that to make sure that they don't have a buyer brokerage agreement that has anything time stamped. Because I know a lot of DocuSign and stuff like that even puts a timestamp on it. So even if it's like a minute after, they're going to flag that.
Okay. So guys, if y'all want to send them the buyer broker agreement beforehand and get it signed before the offer and let them know, like, hey, once this comes back, then I'm officially allowed to send you the offer. You can do that. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I usually, how I tee that up, Matt, is really simple. Hey, I'm gonna write up the offer. It does require me to input some information to make sure that it is the correct offer. I'm going to compile that information. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and send you the buyer brokerage agreement. Go ahead and sign that first while I get this offer completed. It'll be sent over to you shortly after. So it's usually pretty simultaneous.
Yeah, perfect. That's a great explanation. Go ahead, Caitlin.
I was going to say, in Florida, if the EBBA doesn't already exist, I tell the agents send it with the contract, but have it be the first one in that email that they're signing.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, typically in transaction desk, I just move it to the top of the list, so they're signing it as the number one document before they even get to the offer.
Right. So it technically shows there's that electronic footprint that it's signed first.
Yeah. And again, if people push back on you, I want you to realize that they need to know that this is part of the process, right? Like, hey, I get you may have some concerns about it. Again, it's something that if you're wanting me to help you move forward, we have to have this in place stating that I'm the licensed agent that is representing you. I'm not even allowed to send an offer on your behalf without that, because it goes against my license. And that's a true statement. You're not lying. You are not allowed to send an offer on any buyer's behalf with your name on that contract if it don't have a representation form signed by them. Okay, I want y'all to realize that it is a fine. You could get in serious trouble. Does everybody comprehend that? Because it's super important for your license. Any questions surrounding that? Okay, so again, it's just having that initial conversation. I typically do it at the first showing, right? Whether they like the house or not, I'm still going to explain it to them how the process works, because it's important for them to know it. I'm going to re-explain it again, even if they don't like the first house. When we do find the house that they're ready to offer on, I'm going to revert back to, hey, Caitlin, remember the first house that we met at and I explained to you that process? Okay, again, I'm going to explain it again to them. Remember, I told you we have to do X, Y, and Z. I know you've already got your pre-approval, so I can attach that, but I do need to get that buyer broker agreement signed prior to putting that offer, because it's going to state that I'm the licensed agent that's representing you. And I know we don't have that in place yet. We've just been using the touring agreements, right? So it's another example of showing them that this is an important process that you have to do. Shimprella, what's that?
So, Matt, how many houses do you show them before you require them to get that pre-approval?
To get a pre-approval or the BBA?
Well, both really, because like I received like 2 leads recently from Zillow. Neither buyer had the pre-approval, but they still want to go see homes. So I'm like, well, you need to get pre-approved first. One buyer said that he wanted to wait because he knows that he's qualified. But they pretty much wanted to find the right home first. And I'm like, that's not normally how it goes. So, like, would you continue to show them homes?
So how I would handle that, and after I tell you how I would handle, I'll let Caitlin and Eric jump in to see if they have any different alternate ways of how they would handle it. But typically the way I handle that is, again, the first time I meet you ever, I'm going to explain to that process. And again, if they say, well, I'm not pre-approved yet, hey, no big deal. I got a lender I can get you with. We can get you pre-approved within the hour. If they say, well, I've got my own, I'm just going to deal with them. Okay, no big deal. The next time that they want to see a home and I meet with them, I'm going to revert back to that conversation again. So Shimprella, I know the last time we spoke, you said that you were you had your own lender. Did you get a chance to get that pre-approval done yet? If they say no, say, okay, well, again, I know that I've shown you this is the second house now, or third house, or whatever it breaks down to being, because you might show them more than one house at the first initial meeting. I do want you to know it is important. It's an important process to have. And I know that you're talking about you don't want to get it until you find the right house, but I want you to know that those pre-approvals are good for at least 3 months, right? So if you get pre-approved today, you're going to have that pre-approval in hand for the next 3 months. So if we see a home, we can go ahead and put an offer on it immediately without having to go through that whole rigmarole of trying to get pre-approved on the back end, right? So I'm putting a little bit of pressure on them. Does that help answer your question at all?
Yes.
If they tell me, well, I still am not going to do it until I'm ready to find the right house, then you may have to do a little bit of takeaway, right? Because again, it's a process, right? So I might say, well, Champrella, I understand that you don't want to do that, but it's an important process. So we need to make sure we have that in line before I start showing you 50 different homes, right? I'm okay showing you the few that I've shown, but we have to make sure that you're even financially capable, or the financing type that you're going for is going to even suit the homes that we're looking at. So it's going to make everyone more efficient once we get that back from the lender, right? We're going to know a lot more detail about what all that looks like.
Okay.
Caitlin, Eric, do you guys have anything you'd like to add to that, or how you do it?
Yeah. So a lot of times, again, this is that first, either if you can have the convo on the phone call, great. If not, that first meeting where you're face to face with them. And I tell them, typically I say, okay, well, with the home buying process, the first step truly is to get your pre-approval. And then I usually say something silly like, actually, your first step was to find an agent, and you did. That's me. I'm going to be here through the entire process. But our next step is we want to get you pre-approved, because there's going to be some houses that we can't even access without a pre-approval. Sellers, especially occupied homes, they don't want tire kickers in their property. So that's another safety net that falls into place, that there would be some homes that you may want to see, and the seller may not want you in their property if they know you're not serious. So our first step is to get you pre-approved. That also helps me make sure I know what type of homes we need to look at, because if I'm sending you a bunch of homes and they're all conventional, and then we realize that you need to go FHA a few months in, that's going to completely derail us. So we want to make sure that your home type that we're searching for meets your loan needs, and that you're pre-approved, so the seller knows right off the bat that you're serious and ready to go for when you find the right house.
Makes sense.
Perfect.
And then if they still are like, I don't want to do it, you can say, well, when you get serious about buying and you're getting closer, well, if they say, I don't want to do it, I would say, okay, well, what is your true timeline? So are you not wanting to be in a home this year, this summer? Probe more for what their ideal timeline is. Because it may be that, well, my lease doesn't end until August. I just thought I'd start looking. Okay. So you're right that approval wouldn't be good for that long. Any homes on the market right now, if they're worthwhile, they're not going to be on the market in August anyway. So I don't know if I'm looking at houses that aren't going to be an option. What we will want to do is say beginning of June, go ahead and start the process, because then it's going to be more realistic to homes available, and your pre-approval will still be good to go. So a lot of times there's a reason and they just don't know how to tell you. So the more you discuss with them and pull that information out, the easier it's going to be. And they're going to understand that, okay, this is something I truly need to do if I'm wanting to buy a house right now. If they're not wanting to buy a house right now, that's where I say, okay, great. So I'll set you up on a search to get houses periodically. So if something hits the market that you absolutely love, we can get you pre-approved and go see it. But otherwise, we'll stay in touch until you do get more serious. And I put it back on them. Basically verbalizing, oh, you must not be that serious if you're not willing to start the process.
Yeah. And I would also, I know Caitlin referenced them being in a lease till August. I personally set a sense of urgency when they say that. I would say, oh, well, again, if your lease is up in August, we really don't have that much time. So we need to start actually trying to find something for you sooner than later, because, and this is explaining the process, right? Champrella, I want you to know that if we find you a home in the next 2 weeks, right, that's already going to be almost middle of March. by the time we get you closed, it could be up to 45 days, right? So we could already be at May 1st by the time we close, and your first payment then wouldn't even be until June or even July, depending on when you close, right? So just because you have until August doesn't mean we shouldn't start looking now, because it could be June or July before your first payment's even due on a home if we find you something in the next couple of weeks. And then a lot of times that triggers them to be like, holy crap, I didn't even think about that, because they didn't know the process, right? So it's just setting up that urgency and how that process works so that they know for sure, like, I shouldn't wait until July 15th to find a house when my lease is up August 1st, because now I might have put myself in a really bad situation. Eric, were you going to say something? I saw you jump off mute and then I kind of went into that spiel. So
No, you're good. You guys, Caitlin was taking words out of my mouth before I even
Yeah.
spoke. So no, I think that's important because, like, I think you always have to peel back those layers, right? You know, in this business, if they don't want to do something, it's probably because they have a fear of something, or there's something that they're not telling you that you need to pull back those layers. So I would always, if they don't want to get lending done, tell me what your concerns are about getting qualified, right? Do you have any concerns? And they may say no. Okay, great. And that's where I think you guys can use the touch points that you guys had. But I would just say, in the years I've been doing this, you know, buyers are liars. We always say that. And this is part of it, right? Like, if they're not wanting to do something, either they're not committed or there's a fear in place or a concern in place that they're just not telling you. So try to peel back those layers.
absolutely. Does anyone have any questions up to now on how we go about that first showing and setting kind of the foundation of how the process would work? Okay, so that's really all I have for how I do my first showing. I know that's a lot of information, right? And I'm going to be going over this same thing kind of every other week moving forward, because this is now going to be the way that we break these trainings up. So the first training will be on the calls coming in. The second will be on these showings. But if you have any questions in the meantime, obviously you can always reach out to myself or Eric or Caitlin or Sam or Angel. But the biggest advice I could give you guys as new agents is, like I said at the beginning of the call, really, really, really study product knowledge. And that product knowledge is going to set you a level above other agents just in how you can walk through a home and explain things to buyers. But it's also going to make you more efficient, because just like Caitlin said earlier, knowing what they can actually purchase, right? If they're a VA or FHA buyer and you're showing them 1920s and 1930s homes, the likelihood that those are probably going to go that type of financing is slim to none, right? Or even mobile homes. So don't waste your time and their time by showing them homes that they can't even purchase, even if they like them, right? Because their financing won't allow. Go ahead, Caitlin.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and this is a plug for my role on the team, is we don't expect you to know it all right now. We don't expect you to be able to study it all and figure it out before your first couple showings. That's what I'm here for, to help you guys walk through on your first handful of deals. So once you get that buyer and you learn a little bit about them, the idea is that you give me a call and I can help you identify pain points with the buyer's loan or potential property issues. So that's what I'm here for, to help you navigate those scenarios for your first few deals and, you know, the life of your your career with Fortify. So we don't expect you to know it all right off the bat, but that's why you have us to be able to call on.
Yeah, and I mean, you're learning through a fire hose right now, right? You're getting tons of information thrown at you from every angle at every second. And we understand it's a lot to learn. That's why we're trying to break these calls up into even more segmented calls so that your brain just doesn't go on overload mode. Like, I'm sure it still went on overload mode today with all the info we gave you. But that's why I threw a lot of it in the chat box so that you can just write it down and practice this stuff, right? Role play it with another team member. Go act like you're showing each other a house and how you would go through that. Maybe even go to one of the listings on the team that's a vacant house and do a mock showing with each other. It's only going to help you to hone your craft the more that you can practice this stuff.
Hey, that's a good plug, Matt. Texas is actually doing a meeting at a new construction here in a few weeks, model home, meeting with the builder, but also that's what we're going to do. We're actually going to do mock showings with the agents to see how everybody does what they do when they get to the house. So we're doing that to come.
Yeah. I mean, that's another good thing too with the showing assistant role, right? Like if you're a newer agent, if anyone throws in a showing assistant role, the more that you can just do those and not even have to worry about the back end paperwork and setting up inspections and escrows and appraisals and all that stuff, right? If all you're having to worry about is opening the door and showing those homes, those are the things that you want to get in front of as many people as you can, because the more you can do it and practice it, the better you're going to be at it. And it's going to make you more efficient in the future, right? That's what we're here to train you, is to work smarter, not harder, right? The more efficient you can be, the more time you can be at home with your family and make more money by working less. That's really the goal to why you did this anyway, right? Is to be working for yourself and under your terms and your schedule, so to say, not stuck in a cubicle at an office 8 to 10 hours a day, right? So that's what we're here to teach you, how to be as efficient as you can and make the most amount of money at the top efficiency level. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, and just to piggyback on that, Matt, you and I both have started our career kind of in the same spot as everybody else if they're new to the industry, right? Like, it's not a fake, you kind of fake it to make it, not necessarily, because you can't really, bullshit anybody when it comes to legal stuff or major purchases. But, rest assured that like you keep learning and I know, Matt, you're just about the same, a little bit more time in the industry than I am, but I'm still learning stuff today that I didn't know 10 years ago. So, at the end of the day, like, you're going to continue to learn this, but if you get more comfortable with how you handle certain situations, it's only going to make you more money, make you more deals. And, the other side of that is going to get you more referrals, right? Because that's, if they trust you and they trust the process that you've brought them through, they're going to be a lot easier to refer you out to their friends and family.
Absolutely. And the fake it till you make it, it is certain. There's certain aspects of that are true, right? Like Eric said, you can't fake a contract. You can't fake the legal processes, but it's also just being real with them, right? Like having a real conversation. If they ask you a question and you don't know the answer to it, just tell them, say, look, Champrella, that's a great question. I tell you what, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll reach out to the seller and find out. And the minute I hear, I'll call you right back and get you that info. Right? It's just being real, right? Like, don't lie and say something that's a bold-faced lie. Like if they ask the age of the roof and you don't know and you just fire off and say, oh, well, it's brand new because you think it's new and it's 3 years old. Well, now you've put yourself in a kind of a bad situation. So you're better to just tell them that you don't know the age of the roof it looks newer, but I want to just find out the exact age, right? So let me reach out to the seller and I'll let you know. But outside of that, I don't have anything else for today. Does anybody have any questions or concerns that they want to address before we leave for the day?
No, that's it.
Okay. Well, y'all have a great rest of the week, and we'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
See y'all.
Thank you.
See ya.